I would like to invite up next Stephanie Clark and Graeme Ellis, who are going to be talking about empowering audiences, easing operations, and how the Science Museum transformed group booking across 5 museums. So let's get done.
Hello, everybody. Hi. So I am Graeme. I am the head of CRM at the Science Museum Group. The Science Museum Group, if you don't know, is a group of 5 museums across the UK. It's the Science Museum in London, Science Industry Museum in Manchester, the Science and Media Museum in Bradford, and the Railway Museum in York. And as head of CRM, I head up our customer relationship approach to our visitors and stakeholders and really build those ongoing relationships with all of our different audiences.
And hello everyone, so my name is Steph Clark. I'm the Head of Strategic Services at Substrakt. So we're a digital agency, we specialise in the arts and culture sector. We've been going nearly 20 years now, and we're based here in Birmingham in the Jewellery Quarter. And yeah, we thought this would be an interesting kind of insight into the process that we went through to develop a product called GBOP for SMG. So Graham's going to kind of take you through the initial background to that project and where it all started from.
Great, thanks, Steph. So across SMG, we get around about 500,000 group visitors a year. And historically, those group visitors would have to call up or email somebody in our learning team to make those bookings. There wasn't live availability, and so there would often be a bit of email tennis backwards and forwards as those group leaders worked out what they could do and what they wanted to do. Because we have a ticketing platform, Tessitura, that gives us the opportunity to try and systemize some of that and give us the opportunity to offer those group bookings online. And this work happened alongside an internal project to centralize our group contact center. So in the past, each museum would have its own contact centre, and each department within each museum would often have its own contact team as well. And so we wanted to try to centralise that in one central place and pick up those efficiencies on the back of that. So we worked with Substrakt to build GBOP, which is our group booking online platform. And just to quickly run you through how it works, so we asked group bookers to register upfront to tell us a bit about their organisation before they start the booking process itself. The reason we do that is to affiliate the group leader with their organisation, because we want to maintain that relationship both with the individual group leader but also with the organisation that they work for. So once they choose to make that booking with us, we find out a bit more detail about their group. We find out how many adults and children, for example. We find out what age range the children are, and that allows us to serve up our often complex offer already filtered to the things that will be suitable to that particular group. So once they've chosen the activities they want to do that are filtered to their particular group, they're able to choose a date that they can come along into the museum, and they can see what date the activities they want to do are available. We then give them the opportunity to build their own itinerary, plan their day, make sure that we're avoiding clashes. So if they're going into Wonderlab, they're not going to IMAX at the same time, and to build that really in-depth but simple itinerary for the group leader when they arrive at the museum. So once they've got their itinerary chosen, we then present the payment options. So because understanding the way that groups work, we give them the option to either pay by card up front, which is great for us, but also choose to pay by invoice if they want to, which has an additional fee attached to it. But also, because we know very often schools will have to get sign off internally or reach out to parents, we give them the opportunity to hold those tickets for 3 days before coming back to complete their payment or choose to be invoiced. Steph.
Thank you. So just a bit of insight, I guess, into the side of being at the agency when we're kind of presented with a problem like this. Obviously, this was a really internal sort of issue that SMG were dealing with. And whenever somebody comes to us with that kind of problem, it's a really exciting prospect for us, because the opportunity to create something brand new that's really going to meet an organisational issue is why we kind of do what we do, essentially. But we often sort of find when clients come to us, there are two main concerns, really, or reasons why they might hesitate reaching out in the first place. The first one that we kind of mainly see is a brief. Often the client will understand what the problem is, but they don't have a very particular, specific idea of how to fix the problem. And I'd say that's absolutely fine. That's actually our job to come up and say if there is going to be a digital solution that could fit this need. All we kind of need from you as an organisation is information about the problem that you're facing. So, what is the issue? Who is it affecting? Who are your audiences? What are the systems and processes that you have in place at the moment to sort of mitigate the issue? What's your data? Where is that stored? All of that kind of detail. You don't need to kind of come with a really fixed idea and a fixed brief. Coming up with a brief is actually really, really hard to do, especially when you're thinking about creating something brand new that you have not yet seen before, hence why you're talking to us in the first place. The second thing that clients are obviously very understandably nervous about is budget, because R&D for something that's new can be very, very costly, and it's really hard to sort of say to somebody up front how much something might cost if it's, again, a brand new product, a brand new experience. But what we can do as an agency, and what we're very, very happy to do, is at least give you a sense of how much effort something might take, and therefore a general cost of what you might be looking at. And another thing that is really, I think, worth mentioning is that if you are an organisation like ourselves who work predominantly in the arts and culture sector, we know from first-hand that budgets are not infinite. There is not all of that time and luxury and money, essentially, to be spending in R&D. And we know that all of our clients, in the main, are charities, and they have a very real duty, an obligation to sort of spend their money wisely and responsibly, and we take that very seriously as well. So certainly in Substrakt's case, but I'm sure all agencies will look at the opportunity and think, if this is something that can not only meet your needs, but also potentially have an impact on multiple organisations, that's a really exciting prospect and something we're really, really happy to work with you on. And in many, many cases, much of that R&D cost is actually absorbed by us as an agency because we sort of see that potential. So I guess the point of this kind of slide is just to sort of say that if you feel like there is an internal problem that you have a sense that a digital solution might fix, don't be kind of hesitant to go out and have that initial conversation with an agency, and speak to multiple agencies as well, because it's not a waste of time for you. You'll then at least know where you stand, even if the budget or sort of effort involved does seem unfeasible. You can then start looking at alternative options. But if it is feasible, then it's kind of a joint project that basically has mutual sort of impact and mutual benefit, and sort of working together in that way is just a really sort of positive place to start. So if we do decide that it is something that is worth embarking on together, I think another kind of thing to be very aware of is the nature of product development and how that kind of works. And everyone always talks about managing expectations when they do a presentation, I'm sure, but particularly with product development, it is really important to sort of manage expectations, because the very nature of it is not linear, it's not smooth. It's very, very likely that requirements will change halfway through when you get into it, because how can you possibly anticipate everything that might crop up or happen at the very beginning? And agencies, we're kind of quite accustomed to that, we're quite comfortable in that discomfort, but that's a really new way of working sometimes for some organisations. And when you are an organisation that has a very critical business need, you do have a timeline, you do have a set budget, you perhaps have a funder who has got their own objectives and their own timelines and their own requirements. Sort of marrying the two can actually be quite tricky, actually, to be in all honesty, and put quite a strain on the relationship. And I think that's one of the reasons why we thought this was a great project to talk about, is because in SMG we really had a partner that really understood the nature of product development. But I can imagine managing expectations internally might have been a bit tricky. So Graeme might have some more insight on that.
Yeah, there are certainly some internal challenges around this particular project, about engaging colleagues in it and getting them to understand what it would mean to systemize something like group bookings. I think historically some colleagues in our learning and public programs teams would be focused on trying to provide the most bespoke offer that they could to each teacher, to treat each teacher individually and treat each visit to the museum individually. And there are obvious challenges with that and trying to do that at scale and thinking about the 500,000 visitors that we're doing each year. And so trying to think about how we could get them to understand what it means to systemize, what it would mean to be able to offer these group bookings online was a big part of it. You know, this was as much an internal engagement project as it was a technology one. You know, I think what we wanted to do was try and think about this from an audience perspective and think about this from our group bookers' perspective, and actually being able to offer them the ability to self-serve their own booking, to be able to not have to wait until the museum was open to call up or have a long chain of emails, but being able to self-serve there and then in that moment was a big part of it. I think one of the other challenges we faced as well was, you know, trying to just make sure that people understood that we weren't going to totally fix this problem at the first pass, and that we wanted to have a really develop an ongoing roadmap for this, so we could iteratively improve and add in additional things to the project as it developed. And actually, that's what it's really key for us to have a really strong working relationship with a partner like Substrakt, because we knew this wasn't going to be a single project. It's something that we wanted to make sure we were continually building and iterating. So let's talk a little bit about the data behind it. So we launched GBOP in May 2022, and since then we've had a lot of bookings that have gone through the system. And, you know, I'm really pleased that 85% of our group bookings now go through the platform, so that all of those teachers are being self-served. There will always be some people, some group leaders who want to call up and engage with us that way, but the fact that we're getting 85% of the advanced bookings completed by GBOP is a really, really key thing. And, you know, we're capturing some really, really rich data about those visitors, about that particular audience. And so, you know, we can really start to understand a bit more about how those people are engaging with us, who those people are engaging with us, being able to identify those priority audiences that we want to engage with, and being able to see them within the group bookings, but also thinking about what our programme looks like and what we can offer to those people who aren't necessarily met by our current programme, being able to identify what those opportunities are as well. Steph.
Thank you. So since the launch of GBOP with SMG, we've been sort of working hard at Substrakt as well to sort of think about how this could be taken and applied to other organisations. GBOP is designed very much with SMG in mind. It's very specific to their organisational needs, but it's clear that there is potentially a need for something like an admissions plan your day scheduling tool for other organisations that have very similar setups, where there are these multiple education programmes happening, multiple activities, groups of people wanting to come, and at the moment perhaps all of that is managed manually, and a digital solution might be actually a really, really great improvement in terms of workflows internally and time and resource, etc. So after GBOP, we actually went and worked with another museum, the Neon Museum in Las Vegas, and we've launched a sort of plan your day, much smaller kind of version of this for them. And we're also working on something which is kind of an organisation agnostic tool, which is going to be called Transact Admissions. So we're just in the very initial phases of sort of demoing that to some potential clients and getting feedback and consultation. So it's really exciting. So kind of going back to my previous point of, you know, agencies kind of loving the idea of having a project and using it as a test bed and an opportunity for us to develop something new. It's just a really sort of positive story all around, really. We're actually on pretty good time. So we just thought we'd finish off with some key learnings or takeaways for you. I think from our perspective as an agency, as I say, you know, don't be kind of afraid to reach out and have that initial conversation, even if the brief isn't completely formed or there isn't even a budget in mind. It's certainly not a waste of your time because it's a fact-finding mission. I'd speak to multiple agencies. And it's a really, really valuable thing for us as well. We really appreciate the opportunity to speak to people in the sector and understand your challenges. So from our perspective, we are always happy to have these kind of exploratory conversations with clients. It's really exciting for us as an agency. I think that kind of managing expectations things of what product development can be like, and the fact that you're very likely going to be launching something that isn't perfect, it's probably going to be a version of perfection, and there's going to be that kind of cycle of continuous improvement, is just the very nature of how things work. It's how our products work at Substrakt, and that's okay. And yeah, I think that's probably our main takeaways.
Thanks. And you know, for us, it's really about understanding audiences. It's about understanding both those internal audiences as well as the external audiences. So, you know, making sure that you are taking all the right people along for the ride internally to provide the best experience for those people that you can externally. And also, don't rest on your laurels with these sort of things. You know, it's never going to be a one and done thing. It's definitely something that you want to continually iterate and improve, and that's why it's great to work with partners who can help support that as well. So, thank you very much.